Blinded direct! Blinded direct! It is not people! Here it is. 1, 2. What's up, my wizards? Dev, SBMTG, place down there. We got decks and stuff. Today we're gonna focus on something that like everybody in the comment section wants to see, it seems, and do red-white equipped allies, allied equipments, whatever you want to say. Hey, Ziggy. Well, before I give you any of the options for the creatures, the equipments, or anything in the deck, I feel like I should outline what I call the mana problem, sort of an easy name for it, right? Not very creative, but this is sort of an age-old dilemma when building equipment-based aggro decks, you know? Aggro decks want to play really low to the ground, where they rely on the first 3 or 4 turns to play like the optimal creature for each turn, you know, sort of maximize the initiative, you know, make them play your game, react to you, you know. Above all, you play proactively in an aggro deck, and that's tough to do in an equipments deck. The two ideas are sort of at odds with another, you know. You can't play equipments and creatures and equip things on the same turn a lot of the time. It costs too much mana to get going early a lot of the time. So just a basic dichotomy, sort of the two ideas are butting heads, and it's a basic sort of paradigm that we have to keep in mind when building this deck. Something else that's important to do when building really any deck is to take a look at what's been successful in the past and sort of build off of that. How can we sort of replicate that as much as possible? Well, a few years ago in Standard, the Pure Steel Paladin deck was actually really good, really fun deck to play. And the Modern Equipments deck is very similar to it as well. Aire Steel Shaper buffs all of our guys. Pure Steel Paladin draws us cards. Well, we have cards like that. And although the cards that we have in this standard don't necessarily, you know, have the lowered equip costs of something like Pure Steel or Aire Steel Shaper, we definitely get some of the same value, at least, out of 2 key cards. One of those being Weapon Trainer, definitely. The other one, Stonehaven Outfitter. We definitely, no matter what red-white based equipment decks we're building, are going to play 8 copies of these guys, you know, 4 and 4. As far as the other creatures we could play, let's start at the 1-drop slot here. Definitely the 2 most important things that jump out at us in an Allies deck are going to be Stoneforge Acolyte and Expedition Envoy. Acolyte, a little bit better than I thought it would be in testing initially, although it does still have some problems. It's very, very easy to remove with only the 2 toughness. Acolyte is definitely a decent top deck, better than Envoy. And Envoy you want to get as early as possible because he's a really good aggro-y sort of 2-drop for a deck like this. So I think 8 1-drops is the way to go to help solve that mana problem I was talking about. So we want to get going as early as possible. As far as the 2-drop creatures we can play, we have a wealth of options actually. If we want to just keep it red and white, we can probably play either Core Blade Whirl or a Relic Seeker. Not an ally, but still really, really good for the deck, obviously. But if we wanted to add black and go Mardu, we could play either Cutthroat, Zealport Cutthroat, or Calastria Healer. Now, I'm not adding black to the budget version of the deck. I think that'll up the cost and the mana base too much for it to still be reasonably considered budget, you know. But it's good. I really envision this being a couple of good cards to play in this deck. You know, if we added Mardu, we'd have like Oath of Gideon, Gideon himself in a competitive build. We could have, you know, Captain's Clause is obviously in the deck. That's a bunch of things that create tokens, and all of those tokens are allies. So getting triggers off of Calastria Healer when they come into play seems really good. Getting the triggers off of Cutthroat when all those tokens die seems pretty good too. And I can definitely see that being a viable deck strategy. Having more than one way to win. You know, we go a little bit higher on the curve than we are in this budget deck. We can do a lot of damage over the course of the game through, you know, Cutthroat and Calastria Healer triggers. We can make them huge with like Stoneforge Masterwork. The deck gets better in the long game as we gather tokens, and Masterwork gets better and better. I can see that deck being really good, and I just wanted to point that out for like, I hope I kept that under 60 seconds. As far as what we are going to end up playing in the budget deck, I'm going to go back to Core Blade Whirl and Relic Seeker. I'm going to play 4 Core Blade Whirl and 3 Relic Seeker in the deck. Everything about Relic Seeker is amazing in this. So yeah, we'll play him. He's really cheap too. So play him. And then Core Blade Whirl is the only thing in the budget version of the deck that gives us any sort of value when an ally enters the battlefield, which I know sounds wonky, but we want to play very, very low to the ground in this deck with the smallest creatures possible. And a lot of the, you know, good enter the battlefield allies triggers, you know, are all on the bigger creatures, you know. But Core Blade Whirl is really, really good with a bunch of equipments. You know, we're making our dudes bigger with these equipments, thus really making First Strike much more impactful. And Core Blade Whirl has been definitely totally worth so far in this deck. As far as the 3-drop creatures in this deck, the only thing I really think deserves attention is Kazul's Toll Collector. which I think is actually much better than I initially imagined it would be. You know, this card has outperformed any expectation that I had of it, honestly. It solves the mana problem I've been babbling about, sort of in and of itself. You know, 0 to equip is always great. There are ways that we can exploit that in this deck, just with one particular equipment, but I'll get to that when we get to the equipments. But Kazul's Toll Collector has just been better than I ever thought. You know, 3 mana, 3 power guy is good, and he'll only get bigger from there. And it sucks that he's not an ally, but we're only playing a couple things that aren't. So he's still really good. It kind of sucks that you can't get much value out of Stoneforge Masterwork. But you can get value out of a lot of other things. Just every equipment works fine on this guy other than Masterwork. So he's just been ridiculous I mean, I thought he was going to be junk, and I just wanted to test him, you know, but he has actually been a key component to the deck. Freeing up mana on the 3rd or 4th turn to equip him with things for absolutely free is actually more important than you think. So I'm playing the full playset of Toll Collector. I am a convert. That's all the creatures that I'm willing to play in the deck. That's a total of 27 creatures, though, which is about where we want to be. We're doing pretty well on the creature front. What about the equipments? There's a lot of different options. More options than I initially thought there were in this standard, but we can definitely cut a few of those options almost immediately, and I'll run over some of those. Slab Hammer, almost good enough to make the cut, but not quite. We are, again, low to the ground, so returning that land to our hand, not that big of a deal, but I just think there's better options we can play. Sword of the Animist, if you're playing especially a 3-color build of this, say Mardu, or even a 4-color build if you're bold, which I don't think you should do, but if you were, Sword of the Animist would be a pretty good 1 or 2 of. You know, Acolyte can go get it, Relic Seeker can go get it. So it's really, I could see playing Sword to help thin out your mana base, help you draw more gas, and be able to, you know, afford all those equip costs and being able to play guys on the same turn. So, you know, Sword of Animist doesn't seem bad, but it didn't make the cut. And then Throwing Knife, I think, is the only other thing I really need to mention here. Actually, there is one more thing, but Throwing Knife didn't quite make the cut. It also looks okay. It's sort of removal. That's good. You can just deal damage to the face if you needed to. That's good, but Throwing Knife just didn't quite make my cut. The only other thing I need to talk about, I guess, is Helm of the Gods, which we're not playing in the budget version of the deck, but I think it'd go in a funky competitive version, because Helm of the Gods would open you up to removal in the form of Stasis Snare and Silk Wrap. So that actually seems good, especially considering the competitive version. If we're playing Gideon, I'm probably playing Oath of Gideon too. And Oath of Gideon would be really good with like Calastria Healer. The Stoneforge Masterwork can make even a token huge. So, I mean, that's an enchantment. That could work really well with Helm too. And Helm helps us out as far as the mana problems go. Just 1 to equip, 1 to cast, you know. So I can see Helm being really good and giving creatures +2/+2 or +3/+3, considering we'd be playing, you know, 10, 11 enchantments in that deck. So I could see Helm being good, but did not make my budget cut. What did make the cut as far as the equipments here? Definitely, no matter what, in every equipments deck from here to the end of this standard, we're going to be playing 4 Stoneforge Masterwork in the Allies build, and then 4 Captain's Claws. Stoneforge Masterwork is again, a fine card. I was sort of down on this when I first started building the deck, but as I tested, especially the Allies build, it's actually I'm pretty keen on it, you guys. This can make even a small guy fairly big later on in the game, or even just a few turns in the game. It can give a guy +2/+2, +3/+3, and then the creatures only get bigger from there for a fairly small investment, and it only costs the 1 to cast. And then Captain's Claws is probably the best equipment in the format. It's no, you know, Yumizawa's Jite or anything, but it's still one of the best equipments we've seen in a long time. It's better than God's Head. Captain's Claws, I almost want to count it as another creature. It's like, it's that good. If you swing it in all the time, you can equip a token with Captain's Claws, swing in and get a token. That comes up all the time, by the way. It makes Stoneforge Masterwork much better, you know. These things have synergy with one another, which is cool. So, you know, no matter what, absolutely we're playing full play sets of this. But what are the other equipments we're using? I'm going to come out of left field and give you Bonesaw here. Bonesaw is something I considered for a while because it absolutely solves the mana issue. You know, 0 to cast, 1 to equip. We can cast this on the first turn or any subsequent turn and still play a creature. But on the first turn, you can play this and an Acolyte. That's a really good play to get you set up. Just Bonesaw is very good in getting you set up. And the next turn, you play Weapon Trainer and everything automatically gets the buff already. This frees up a lot of mana, and that is paramount to our game plan here. So I am playing a full playset of Bonesaw don't judge me, it's actually been amazing. I actually have one open slot here for an equipment. I'm only going to play 20 lands in the deck. What do we do? Well, I think that a good one-of silver bullet equipment, and remember, even if it's a one-of equipment, we can search it up easily with Acolyte, just, you know, impulsing for it, 4 cards at a time, or we can search it up with Relic Seeker when he gets through. So a one-of equipment is actually not that bad. I'm going to play a one-of Dragon Throne of Tarkir, and it's actually nuts. Like, it really is. I want to play more copies of this, to be honest with you. Dragon Throne has been crazy, especially with Kazul Toll Collector. You know, you play a Dragon Throne, you equip it for free to the Kazul's Toll Collector. You equip literally everything to Kazul's Toll Collector for free, swing them with all your guys, and they'll get an enormous buff. But this is good in other ways, too. You know, you just equip one guy alongside a weapons trainer, you'll get huge buffs, and just that one guy can tap to give all your creatures like +4/+4, or +5/+5. So Dragon Throne has been a really good silver bullet, just a one-of equipment in the deck. Here's the sideboard for this version of the deck. This definitely, you don't have to explain too much. There's a lot of token removal in this sideboard we have to have against a lot of decks in the format, but there's some weird stuff too. Lithomancer's Focus is really good against the, you know, the scourge of probably Eldrazi aggro decks. They're going to be at F&Ms. They may not be competitive, although people are trying to make red-black Eldrazi a competitive deck. I can see that. And it's a combat trick, and it buffs your guys by a fairly sizable amount for just the 1 mana. So I really like Lithomancer's Focus out of the board. And then Make a Stand may not be great against Languish or Flaying Tendrils, but it's really good in combat. It's good against Kozilek's Return. It's good against Radiant Flames. So there's a lot of reasons to play Make a Stand, and it's a really good combat trick to help us out against some mass removal, or just so we can sort of surprise them, either when we swing in or block and then make a stand. That can just be a blowout play. And then here's the land base for this version of the deck. Really not too much to explain here either. Although I will explain the Crumbling Vestige. Crumbling Vestige has been nuts. Like, I cannot tell you. I know it looks so weird, but there are no cards in this budget version of the deck that cost 2 of a given mana. You know, it's all either 1 red or 1 white. And in the case of Weapons Trainer, a red and a white. That's as mana intensive as things get. And Crumbling Vestige can either be that red or white source that we're lacking. And oftentimes we sometimes are lacking a red source. So it can be our red source for the turn. And then later on, after that, it can help us equip things. It's still good for paying equip costs. Here's the power rankings for the deck. A final score of 60, which is pretty good for a budget aggro deck. Usually they score in, you know, the mid-50s to high 50s. A solid 60 is actually really good for one of these. We are fairly more resistant than other aggro decks because, you know, the thing about equipments is they can wipe our board, they can kill a guy. The equipment's going to stick around. If we just play one more guy, we can make that dude huge if we have the mana to equip all those things to him. Swing in, and that's actually really good against mass removal. Equipments can be. So in that way, we're slightly more resilient. We could be more versatile. You know, we're not playing too much removal. We're just trying to win as fast as possible. So our offense is very high, but we're weak in the categories we would assume we would be weak in. So, you know, standard sort of aggro fare here, but more resilient than usual. So that's good. But we trade a little bit of explosiveness for it. So there's that. Here's the best news right here. It's only going to cost you about 20 bucks to build this deck. That's awesome. And it can even cost you even less on TCG Player if you go by the lowest prices imaginable. So this deck doesn't cost hardly anything to build the sort of base version of. And you can always add on to it by adding a color, namely black, as you move into the format, get a couple of extra bucks, trade with people, you know. So the deck is fairly flexible, can be built onto, and does not cost hardly anything at its base level. And it's very consistent, you know, a lot of 4-ofs in the deck. We've got a very solid game plan. We're able to solve the problems that we have fairly efficiently. So I do like the deck, and it doesn't cost nearly anything to make, you know. It's basically like if you went out to dinner at an Applebee's. That's how much the deck costs. That's all I got for now. Make sure you check the description for the deck list, and I may even include the deck list for the Mardu version of the deck I've been brewing up in my head that I've been sort of babbling about in this video. I'll probably do that, but let me know what you guys want to see next time. I'm not going to give any choices. There's definitely a lot of support in the comments for a few decks, and I kind of want to see what you guys want to see most, because I'm probably already working on it. So just let me know what you guys want to see. If you enjoyed the content, hit the like button, just smash the thumbs up, just be like, oh, thumbs up. Share the video, because, you know, other people want to know how to build this deck. Comment, let me know how you felt, how you'd change it, how you felt about all my choices, and what else we could have done. And sub if you're new, or if you haven't subbed yet, get off your button sub, guys. I'm Deb from SBMTG. Thanks for watching, my wizards.